look, there's projects that come along that you feel like, God, this is fortified with vitamins and minerals. This is a powerful teaching and learning tool for us. Not only is it an amazing disaster movie, like action packed and thrilling and gripping, but it's actually really good for us.
Congrats on the show. It's incredible. I was sobbing watching this. I was watching it with my sister. We kept squeezing each other's hands because it's so intense. I'm wondering, as actors getting into that mindset of these real life characters who made some very tough ethical decisions, what made you each want to take on these roles? Vera, let's hear from you first.
Just by virtue of the fact that the story. Look, there's projects that come along that you feel like, God, this is fortified with vitamins and minerals. This is a powerful teaching and learning tool for us. Not only is it an amazing disaster movie, like action packed and thrilling and gripping, but it's actually really good for us. And we got to have the willingness to look at the past to address the future. We have to have the willingness to look at the way we operate, look at our plans and our, and what's not working and how best to fix it. But I also just in terms of the role, to me, it was a great gift. It's an incredibly complex and nuanced role.
Well, I think as actors, so often the conflict is so deeply personal and therefore smaller.
Yeah.
And this was so massive. Yeah. It was both these characters trying to preserve a community of people. Mm-hmm. So the stakes are so beyond yourself. Yeah. And we rarely have the opportunity to tackle that kind of a character with that kind of crushing responsibility. So that was drew me to it immediately.
And, that's the thing too. I was talking to Julie in the other room and, she said that you don't usually take your work home with you, but she got very emotional. We were talking about one scene in particular in episode 5. And it was crazy. So I'm wondering, these are things we've also noticed in the real world with pandemic, doctors making ethical decisions like this. What is one of the biggest takeaways you want audiences to recognize through your characters when watching this miniseries?
Well, what I take away from it always is look, these are our heroes, the doctors and nurses and caretakers. They're our heroes. They're a certain breed of human and it's about compassion. It's a compassion. Like they are ordained. They got to do it. They can't help themselves, but fix people and help people and put others, uplift others and I think that, in a way it is, it honors them, the script. It's a tribute to them. It is I self-reflect when I see it and I say, how can I have more compassion? Mm-hmm. What can I do more on a daily basis? Like, how can I shift the energy? How can I spread light in darkness, in this present darkness? Simple as that.
Yeah. Before I wrap, obviously, Sheri, if you have anything to add to what Vera has to say.
I'll just say that I got a text from a dear friend yesterday from the Atlanta airport. She'd seen the trailer. She's an oncology nurse. She said that from August 12th on, she thinks the series will be presented for nursing classes on ethics and death and dying. And she said for 40 years, she always thought she knew what she would do in any situation. And now she feels like she has some soul searching to do. So that's from a 40-year nurse. Mm-hmm. So I think the series does have a lot to offer to a lot of folks on a very specific level. Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you so much, ladies. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. And again, congrats on the series. Congrats on the show. It is so well done. And it's, it's equally heartbreaking. I was so emotional watching the show. I think I was sobbing. I had to pause certain times just to collect myself. But, you give a wonderful performance as Diane. It's very raw. What was it about this character? I know that she's based on a real person, but what really piqued your interest about, getting the chance to play her? And did you get to talk to Sheri Fink about her or even Diane herself?
None of the real people were involved in production. So our research was Sheri Fink and was her brilliant book. But Sheri also, she's a brilliant journalist. So she has intense amounts of research that she just very openly shared with us. If, whatever questions we had, she even asked me, she's like, what is your process so that I can understand what you're looking for better here? And we had a long back and forth about that. She was very eager to send us everything she could possibly send us. I will say this about my character.
Yeah.
This is a woman who at 7 months pregnant shows up to the worst hurricane in a century, and it was forecast to be the worst hurricane in a century, to care for her patients and see her staff safely through the storm.
Mm-hmm.
And that says so much about a person, right?
Yeah.
She's also very connected to her people.
Mm-hmm.
She's this really wonderful mix of compassion and empathy and real grit.
Yeah.
That's very attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
So even just the circumstance of this woman in this hospital during these 5 days says so much about her character.
Yeah.
It was a real pleasure to step into those shoes.
I could see so much on your face. You were really emphasizing everything she was feeling. And, Katrina was a model in how corporate medicine is a failure when you're looking at numbers instead of lives. And, there's one particular scene, I won't spoil it, but it was between your character and a patient. And I'm wondering, how did you get into that mindset? Because it is very intense and it was so emotional. So I'm wondering if you were also feeling that behind the scenes.
You're talking about a scene in episode 5, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just teared up even when you mentioned it.
I am too.
It is, without spoiling anything, it was so beautifully written and directed by John Ridley, that whole sequence. And Damon Standifer, who plays Emmett Everett, is such a love of a human being. And we had such a wonderful experience being together, but also as the characters. I really pride myself on being able to leave work at work. I think it's necessary if you're going to do this kind of emotional work or the extreme character work I sometimes do. But I obviously have still not shaken that scene. I obviously am, it's obviously still emotionally affecting me. And I think that probably will be true forever. It's just really beautifully written and directed. And everyone was so very committed, including Ramsey Nichol, our DP, did such a beautiful job trying to emotionally climb inside these characters with us visually. And he's so inventive in doing that. It really makes the audience feel like they're just either peeking over your shoulder or in the point of view with you. Yeah. So it was, I suppose that depth of work comes with a cost. It is a cost I was happy to pay and still am. Yeah. It's a privilege to tell a story like this. And I hope that it will have an impact socially for us. I hope we can start a conversation in a larger way about who we want to be together in these collective crises, how we want to show up for each other, and the standards we hold our institutions and our government to.
Yeah.
Everybody abandoned these guys. And you talk about corporate medicine, Life Care really paid the price for corporate medicine that day during the storm. The fact that Life Care and Tenet were totally separate corporations.
Yeah.
And that they in no way even attempted on a corporate level to try to work together. And then Tenet actively hindering the evacuation process for Life Care patients.
Mm-hmm.
I still am flabbergasted by that. Yeah. But it does show a massive failure of corporate medicine. And we need to have that conversation in our country too. Yeah. Do we still believe in corporate medicine? Is it okay with us that people are making decisions in a boardroom that come down to good business decisions, maybe for them, but completely leave out the human element of it?
Yeah. Well, I love how this show humanizes it, and especially in times of COVID, and these decisions doctors were making are very similar to what's happening at Memorial. So, Julie, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And again, congrats on the series.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for watching in such a heartfelt way.
Congrats on the series. I love how the show humanizes the events through these, performances and the writing. You guys did a great job with this show. And I'm really excited to see how award season comes for you guys, because the show is just phenomenal. Your character, Dr. King, he was a newcomer to Memorial when Katrina hit, and he came in with a very distinct set of ethics. I'm wondering, seeing how discrimination played a huge part in how things were handled during Katrina, what was it about Bryant that made him such an impactful voice, especially as the events unfolded near the end?
Well, I think it was just what you said. He came in with a certain set of ethics and morals and principles that were kind of ingrained and really hard for him to deny and to ignore, particularly in a time of crisis. That's a good time to ignore some stuff. Some might say. But it's, regardless, it's just that for him. I think that's what makes him kind of stand out. And that's what makes his journey kind of so compelling and unique, because we watch him really find the balance of what that is, of how to kind of tackle that mountain, if you will, of what to do, what not to do, when, where. And it's something that I think people will kind of really gravitate towards, because that's what we all kind of want to see in a character. Like, how do you face that inner conflict?
Mm-hmm. And, you had some very intense scenes with Sheri. You guys, your characters were like head to head, butting heads a lot of the time, especially when you started seeing things unfold. What was it like working with her in those scenes, especially since knowing there was like that emotional background of everything going on with your characters?
It was great. It was great. I've been a huge fan of Sheri for so long, and just really the opportunity to meet her and to work on screen with her. And really, more importantly, after the show, really beginning of the show, really kind of develop a real friendship with Sheri. That's golden. That's golden. Life is about relationships, and I have a lot of great relationships that came from this process that will be with me for probably the rest of my life. But on screen, she is legendary. She is so spectacular, and the only unfortunate thing is that we didn't have more scenes together. Like, I could have did a whole episode with just me and Sheri. Like, I would have did that happily. But just a couple scenes here and there, and I really enjoyed our time together.
Yeah, they were very great. There were great scenes. I loved seeing those scenes all the time. And I just wanted to see more interaction. Before I do let you go, I'm wondering, what do you hope audiences take away from this show with how these decisions that are very similar to the pandemic that doctors had to make will transform our understanding of communities in crisis?
Yeah, I think people from this, should take away that. For me, it's really finding kind of the personal search engine, if you will, about what you want to see have happen in this world, and what you want to fight for, and really, asking yourself a tough question, a tough but basic question. Yeah. Am I coming from love or fear? Is love motivating this, or is fear motivating what I want to see have happen in the world? And so I would hope that after this series, people choose love, and to know that you can always choose love. You can always choose hope. And at the same time, choosing love doesn't mean you won't have to fight for what you think is right and what you believe in.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cornelius, it's a phenomenal show, and you gave a great performance, and I cannot wait to see award season for you guys. So congrats again on the series. Hi, Mr. Pine. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. I'm a huge fan. I've been watching you since Chips. My parents today, I'm like their favorite child today. So it's a very good day.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Congrats on the series. It's very hard to watch. I feel like this is a very emotional show. You cannot watch it without crying. And your character, Horace, he has a very strong moral conscience, but he remained very calm during those 5 days in the hospital. So I'm just wondering, what do you think made him react that way? And was that fathomable or even challenging for you as an actor taking on this role?
Well, taking on any role that you are you're characterizing real people, you feel a responsibility there. And but other than that, this show is very well cast. Everybody is spot on. And this character, I wanted to be a doctor, and I actually wanted to be a doctor just like what I understood Horace Baltz to be. So that wasn't really that difficult for me. I liked the character. It's so well written, and I liked his arc. And so it wasn't really that difficult for me. And it was a wonderful production to work on. Probably the best professional experience I've ever had in 57 years, and that's saying a lot. So it was a wonderful project, and I had no problems at all with it.
Yeah, and I feel like your character brought so much, like, Horace brought so much heart to that whole situation. Like, he was the conscience of the group. He was balancing out even Vera's character. And so I'm wondering, like, what was it like working with Vera on those scenes? Because a lot of them were very intense, and then they were very emotional as well.
Well, it was good. She's wonderful in this piece, wonderful. And what we all tried to do was bring a humanity to these people. And where we might have, my character might have disagreed with her on some things, I was still a professional, and I wanted to help her. I didn't necessarily, my character didn't necessarily agree with her, but those things happen in hospitals. And these were incredibly difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
That can't be emphasized enough. So I enjoyed working with her. I mean, she's a pro.
Yeah. And did you talk to Sheri Fink about Horace, since I did read that he did pass since, the event took place?
Yes, he had passed when we did it about 3 years prior. And she was very helpful to me. And I discussed how I was going to approach the character, and she agreed with it and said that she was very, liked him very much. And so she was very helpful to me.
I loved his character. I think you did a phenomenal job in this, and I cannot wait to see you get like an Emmy or like some sort of award for it. It'd be great. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about, there are some deep similarities to the decisions made at Memorial to what caretakers had to make during the pandemic that we just had, and we're still in the middle of it. So what hope do you think audiences should take away from this, understanding of what, human nature in crisis?
Well, life is made up of choices. We all have to make choices. And we've seen in COVID what these doctors have to, what they have to deal with. I mean, very up close and personal. And say you have 3 respirators and 8 people need them. How do you make that choice?
Yeah.
And to watch people die and without their family there. So there are great parallels about this, and I hope people take away that these caregivers, we've seen up close and personal in COVID how this happens, and this was happening in Memorial, as I understand it. I mean, ours was just a story of the events. It's not a documentary or anything like that. And so I hope they take away a further appreciation for what these people do and the pressure they're under.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Mr. Pine, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It's been an absolute honor chatting with you, and you brought, again, so much to this role. So congrats.